It's a beautiful Wednesday morning, and I say good morning. I'm Ayo Makinde. Welcome to the show.
Yes, albeit wet Wednesday morning in the month of August when we're supposed to be experiencing a break, but we're grateful all the same. Good morning and welcome to Sunrise Daily on Channels Television. I am Bukola Samuel Wemimo.
I don't know if it rained in Abuja.
Well, I can't blame it on the rain. I mean, or whatever the weather is, I thank God, whichever way, whatever comes, bring it on. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Sunrise Daily from here, Abuja. I'm Chamberlain, Uso.
Yeah, I know he likes it when it's cold. Bring it on, not when it's hot. Then he begins to wish he's not wearing this jacket of his.
Who likes that kind of very, very hot, extremely hot weather?
So whatever it is, bring it on. You can say that in the rainy season, can't you?
Well.
Good morning. It's also wet here in Abuja. It's a rainy, wet day. At least that's what the weather is showing this morning, and that's how we came to work here. But we're happy to have you. Thank you for tuning in. I'm Maokwe Ogunyusu.
Well, I'm not sure, this conversation around wet or dry season only reminds me of something that they say in business. It's either bullish or bearish. And I don't know, yesterday something Maokwe, spoke about kept on my mind, and you probably observed that I spoke about it in the course of the conversations we had with one of our guests, and that is around this whole banking system, business environment, and all. That conversation between both of you, Chamberlain and Maokwe, yesterday was around the structures that can protect businesses, single-digit exchange, single-digit loans, and facilities that can help jumpstart businesses and all. And the fact that that whole conversation around us being a producing nation, not just a consuming nation. We've been talking about this, Chamberlain, you would remember, we've been talking about this for, at the very least, the past 3 years. And it's not a problem that just started now. It's something that's been on for a long time. Question that I would just want to ask is there a chance that the banking sector, the financial, not just banking, the financial sector entirely, in its entirety, can help to buffer and build the micro, small, and medium enterprises? It's a nightmare for small businesses when they want to go to the banks to get any loan, even any facility that, I remember, some of us will remember the efforts that the CBN put in place for micro, small, and medium enterprises to access some facility, some 3, 5, or thereabout years ago, something in the region of 20 billion naira set aside for micro, small, and medium enterprises, 200 or 200 billion, I'm not quite sure. So, but to access that was tedious for so many people, and for only one reason, perhaps, and that's the fact that many people aren't even educated in terms of, do not have sufficient business education. At the time we're struggling with jump-starting the economy so that more and more people can pay taxes and shore up the revenue of government. I'm just wondering if indeed it is possible for the CBN, the financial sector in its entirety, to find a way to make getting these facilities easier for micro, small, and medium enterprises. No, I'm not talking about all that trader money, and all those things.
But for small businesses.
For small businesses, things that they can easily go to. I don't know, maybe I'm just speaking over my head, but with 40 million micro, small, and medium enterprises in Nigeria, that is the core economy. That is where the employment happens. And if the facilities are right, they will die, far less frequently. Their structures that uphold them will stand quite firm. I'm just wondering, when will we get to that, Uhuru?
I hope soon, Ayo, but your narrative gives cause for us to think this morning. And I'd like to say that there are some businesses that are rising against the odds and doing well in spite of the stifling business environment. I remember being somewhere over the weekend and someone was saying about how she had been able to take her business to another level, that her products are in stores in Canada. And what does she do? She sells kuli kuli. It's also in this country that we have ginger, being talked about as one of the best types of spice from any part of Africa in the world, from Nigeria.
Yeah.
It's mass-produced in some parts of the north, I think Jos or Kaduna. I'm not quite sure of that. Only a few days ago, we were talking about, one of our guests referred to cattle being an economy.
Yeah.
You know, but there isn't
it's a 30 trillion naira economy.
You know, from the cattle you find milk, you find all the other products, the hides and all of that. But are we putting our best foot forward, you know, by supporting local businesses? I was going to talk just before you, said something about cattle. I was going to say that is there a consensus amongst, you know, leaders in the north about how to harness the resources in that regard, i.e., you know, developing ranches so that we don't have cattle moving about in the 21st century from the north to the south on the excuse of the weather. You know, so if we're able to put our best foot forward, then perhaps we'll have a policy environment that would encourage these businesses to thrive. Then it'd be easier to make a choice on single-digit interest rate, you know, for these businesses to thrive. It'll be easier to make the ease of doing business environment to be, you know, easier for these businesses to thrive.
Absolutely.
These are some of the things that we should be thinking about.
It's a long one. Well, there are so many initiatives around the micro, small, and medium, well, the agricultural sector in itself. But this conversation started in Abuja yesterday. Markwe, it was you in particular, I remember, starting that conversation from a particular headline.
Well, I don't know. There'll be many more conversations on that. I know that recently we saw the special advisor to the president on ease of doing business talking about how the World Bank is, I think, providing $750 million or so. I'll have to double check. Is that $75 million or 750? Because $750 million seems like a lot of money.
Yeah.
But I know that there is a plan somewhere for small businesses to be able to profit from, you know, to be able to get some support, maybe grants or something. But I think we can see clarification from her much later. My own focus will be, I mean, if government were to do, if there's anything I'd like government to be able to do right now, is to be able to tackle the issue of security. They're doing some work in infrastructure, but security needs to be tackled headlong. Chimelin, I don't know if you know that one of the reasons I moved to Abuja was because of this scenery. I'm sure you've enjoyed it as well, driving through the city and, you know, being able to explore your country, to be able to drive from Lagos. When people come on our program and they're talking about how, oh, they used to drive from Sokoto to Maiduguri in those days, you could drive at night. It was beautiful. It was safe. You could stop anywhere, eat corn, eat sugar cane, as the case might be, or drive from, you know, just exploring the country, drive from Lagos to Ore, then, you know, just explore the country. Yeah. And I'm asking myself, what will it take for us to go back to those years? Maybe we don't have to go back. Maybe move forward. A lot of countries now are investing in, you know, great infrastructure. I mean, the kind of infrastructure of the future. What you call infrastructure of the future? High-speed trains that can go as much as 600 kilometers per hour. We're not even there yet. We're still going with our locomotive. We're okay with it. But the fact that we can't even use it, we can't even, you know, enjoy it as a result of the current security situation that we have. The fact that Nigerians cannot travel freely. A niece of mine was going to travel from Lagos to Abuja. My heart was in my mouth. I'm asking, what sort of risk is this? If, you know, kidnappers should take some, will it really mitigate the cost of etiquettes, for instance? So I think that, you know, this thing of security needs to be tackled headlong. It's affecting every single aspect of our lives, and it is, will I say, it is stifling our ability to be able to maximize the life, the full potential that we have as Nigerians, the beautiful, you know, resources, human and natural, that God has blessed us with. We can't even, you know, go and explore it and enjoy it, all because we are stifled by security. I'm really hoping for a time when we can really be done with bandits, kidnappers. It's not that there's not be there. People will always, you know, engage in banditry or maybe kidnapping, but it should be brought to a barest minimum, the type where we know that if you're caught, or that if anything happens, you will be caught, as a matter of fact. If you try it, you will be caught. Let us get there. But in the meantime, I think that continues to remain a desire. If there's anything I'm praying about on a daily basis, it is because we need to be able to bring people to this country. There is so much to explore, so much to market about our country, so much to sell on this country, so much to enjoy in this country. It is really stifling and limited that, you know, we're limited by our security challenges, and it ought not to be so.
And, you know, these things, they're not rocket science. These challenges can be addressed. And so it's befuddling when some people try to make it look as if it's a very, very difficult matter to address. It's not. But also, you know about when it's not secure, businesses cannot thrive. So they almost go together. And speaking about stifling things, the tax system, that structure is another component that the authorities will have to take a look at, even though there are several reports that FIRS saying that they've addressed multiple taxation. But there are different components to that. Many think, wait a minute, are they really sure that that is the case? Because that's not the kind of feedback they get. I also spoke about the MSMEs, and the thing about that is, if you set up a little small business trying to eke out a living, the way they swoop on you in different states, it is mind-boggling. So there's that fixation on profits making, revenue generation, as opposed to the businesses surviving. So they need to have a second look at that, because even the government agencies, when all of those huge targets are given to them, chances are that, for instance, the ones that are usually at the ports, when they focus on the revenue they've got to make, you find that the standards dwindle. All sorts of things go through because they believe, well, we can easily find tax. And so it's difficult for businesses to thrive in that kind of environment. So you know what they say about capital. It's a coward. It flees when it's threatened. So if it's insecure, if people don't feel safe to do business, how do you even generate that kind of tax or revenue that you want? So it's a cycle. It comes back and bites us on the bum. But we're hoping that at the end of the day, questions and authorities will address these challenges headlong. And after all, we're going into an election year where you and I, us, will all have opportunities to ask them questions, as it were. So that said, let's take you through the dailies today. We'll start with Daily Trust this morning, and they start off with politics. Tinubu, Wike's London meeting rattles PDP Atiku. Rivers governor may work for APC, ascribed to a source. You expect that kind of rider when you see this kind of lead story. Former VP mum, we're working to resolve PDP crisis, BOT chair. And the BOT chair had said at the time, he reeled out, boy, how he's been at party since 1998, thereabouts. And he's been through the rank and file from the lowest stuff, quote unquote, of positions up until the chairmanship of the BOT. Now he thumps his chest saying nobody can claim to have the interest of this party, you know, much more than him. He's been there from the get-go, and so they're waiting for the reconciliation committee's report so they can take it from there. He says, I will speak my mind, no matter whose ox is gored. There you go. And then businesses. International airfares triple over $464 million blocked funds. So how does this work? If it's been blocked, they're tripling the fares internationally, or international fares emanating from here as well. Does this tripling of funds make the funds that were blocked available, or make the new ones that will be added to this available? It's just a lot for users, customers to grapple with or deal with, if you will. So that is Daily Trust today.
Well, let's take a look at what the Vanguard has. It seems that they're following suit in terms of the headline. I do not know if that meeting was supposed to be secret, but when it's on the front pages, exactly, when it's on the front pages of two major dailies, then you know that that's not in the realm of rumors. That is in the realm of reality. 2023, Tinubu meets Wike, two PDP governors in London, seeks horse trading to work against Atiku. Wike playing anti-party politics. That's attributed to ex-VP scam. Says Wike can't kill PDP. Rivers governor's man dumps PDP, moves to APC. BOT to receive reconciliation panel report today. Chairman, secretary, deputy national chair may lose seats. Okay, so quite a lot to, you know, digest what is going on with the two major parties. Because if this is about to happen as a result of the horse trading and reconciliation panel report, will it still go ahead with the headline? You know, big question. I mean, with the meeting that has happened in London, page 5 might give you insights into what the writers are talking about this morning. Look at this one. Prosecute high-profile sponsors of electoral offenses attributed to INEC. Page 9 is where you get details. They have a number of other stories. Terrorism, surrender arms publicly. Zamfara panel tells bandit leader Bello Turji. So that is also on the front page. Nigeria Ports Authority drives forex earnings with 10 export terminals. It's on page 19. Artisanal refineries can't be legalized. That's according to Kiari. Page 9 also will give you details. Mr. and Mrs. is still on the front page. If you're interested in it, you can pick it up. Some argument over a piece of meat. You would think that by now adults would be over meat, but not Mr. and Mrs. So turn to the back page.
Some will kill for it. They do anything for it.
For their meat, right? Don't touch it. Well, when it's not a Yoruba man. Ayo, no. But if you look at the back page there, look at this. Football remains Nigeria's national asset. That's according to the President Buhari. Says any attempt to undermine its development will be resisted. Receives football development master plan. NFF receives 15 billion naira in 7 years. That's according to Dari. So you also have that. Look at this one. Kamaru Usman is on the floor there. And wants third fight with Edwards in enemy territory.
He's gotten on the floor since.
Please, recover first. Just take it easy and recover. Before we talk about another fight, let's leave it there for Vanguard newspapers.
Shots fired, Markwe. Thank you very much. Well received. 1-0. The Guardian newspaper is next, and it's in the same spirit of the previous papers, the Vanguard and the Daily Trust newspaper this morning. Wike raises stake, and this angle, of course, you see is interesting. Leads PDP governors to meet Tinubu. Okay. Of course, the writers say a little differently. Obi meets Afenifere leader Adebanjo in Lagos. Northwest states indifferent to 2023 elections over insecurity. Is that ascribed to Shetima? Oh no, that's all in parentheses. Find out the details on the inside pages. Shoyinka, same-face ticket, controversial, ill-timed. Okay, well, that's what you have there. Why Tinubu deserves to be next president by Keyamo. Find the details of that on the front page of the Guardian newspaper. Interesting choice of pictures as well, but hey, what do I know? Right under those pictures, Serap NGE sue FG as stakeholders urge downward review of TV radio fees. Find the story on page 9 of the paper this morning. And there's a number of other stories. Just this one more. You are misleading Nigerians, ASU tells FG. As far as the students are concerned, settle your differences and please resume already. Okay? That's the Guardian today.
And Ayo, the Nigerian Tribune is not quite on all fours with the other papers. It chooses to go a different way, especially with its big story. And it goes this way. U.S. to repatriate fresh $23 million Abacha loot to Nigeria. And the rider says this repatriation brings total amount of funds repatriated in this case by the U.S. to more than $334.7 million. I'll take that figure again. $334.7 million. That's attributed to U.S. ambassador to Nigeria.
Please don't try to convert it to Naira in your head. Your calculator could say E or error.
One individual, Ayo.
Well, I don't know whether it's
who's
an
been
allegation.
lauded in the past as having contributed to infrastructural development and built roads, hospitals.
It's interesting that we always call it Abacha loot, though. It's very interesting. Who else's loot is it going to be soon?
So how should we rechristian it this way?
I don't know. I'm just thinking.
What do I know? Like Ayo. All right, that's the big story on the front page of the Nigerian Tribune. Let's take a look at some more stories. Go above the nameplate. You'll find this one. Governors should account for state-level emergency funds collected. That's according to the presidency. Says tackling natural disasters, not federal government's direct business. There we go again. This lack of consensus at the leadership level in the states and even at the federal level. And one more story as we look at the PDP crisis rendered in a different way by the Nigerian Tribune. Wike, Makinde or Tom meet again in France. So there are multi-level meetings in different parts of the world still on this PDP crisis, and we have just some weeks to the commencement of campaigns.
That story has a rider.
Okay, let's go with the rider. Parley with Tinubu in London. We've gone through that before. That's why I didn't quite bother with that. But you can bother with, your conclusions on these meetings. Let's leave it there for the Nigerian Tribune this morning.
Well, this Nigeria follows through with that similar headline as you've just seen. So it says, how many years after now? 24 years after, another Abacha $23.41 million loot ready for repatriation. That's a big lead on the front page of this Nigeria today. And the first rider says, as FG US seal agreement to send back stolen funds. Over $334.7 million repatriated so far from America. So all of that associated with that big lead on the front page right there. And then there's also some focus concerning the broadcast stations that were shut down, but I think you see it in another daily, so I'm just gonna go ahead and skip that one there for you. And so, and then you see punish soldiers responsible for Islamic cleric's death. President orders military. Okay, I think they say the police is also parading such people, but I want to see the same kind of, do I say, for want of word, zest as whoever else found culpable in insecurity across board. That is this Nigeria this morning.
Well, let's take a look at what leadership has for you. And they have this. Broadcast license editors Sarah sue PMB, NBC as stations strive to meet deadline today. Radio Kwara, Borno Radio, IBC, ABS meet deadline. Niger asks for extension. Rivers can't meet deadline. That's according to an official. We can't disclose stations that have paid. That's according to NBC. There'll be a question as to why. If you disclosed when they didn't pay and threatened to revoke their licenses, why can't we disclose stations that have paid? Well, you might want to read why on page 4.
I assume they've not paid.
Workers fear loss of jobs, beg for deadline extension.
Oh yeah, that's the huge concern.
Oh yes,
the
indeed.
Loss of jobs.
If NBC succeeds, 200 stations may go. That's according to NUJ. Okay, you find all the details on page 4. They also have this for you. Tinubu Wike meet in London as PDP reconciliation drags. On the corner here, stakeholders ask PMB to intervene in planned sale of Polaris Bank. Federal government, US sign. Oh yes, this is Abacha loot. It's generating some conversation already. That is also there on the front page. Terrorists, bandits are not spirits. Military must crush them. It's a page 7 read for you. Let's leave it there for leadership newspapers.
Nigerian News Direct this morning, it's also talking about Abacha, but look at that angle. 3 federal roads to gulf $23.4 million as FG US signed recovery agreement. Is that suggesting that we're going to spend the money?
If you're having any ideas about the Abacha loot already, it's been decided.
That we're going to spend it?
Well, that's what Nigerian News Direct is saying this morning.
Well, insinuating, I guess, said 3 federal roads to gulf, 23.4 million. I'm just wondering, must we spend it? At a time when foreign reserves is at...
has dipped to $337,000 or so from millions of dollars.
And there are those who joke about and it's only when Nigeria is broke that somebody releases, a transfer from wherever. Anyway, that's the story on the front page, page 3. And Abuja-Kano Road, Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, second Niger Bridge enlisted. All of that you'll find on page 3 of the Nigerian News Direct. Question again, must this money be spent or kept? That's it right there. And right under the picture, political assassinations, Osun government talks tough. Find the details of that on the inside pages of the Nigerian News Direct this morning.
And very quickly, let's take a look at the Daily Times. The Daily Times leads this morning with the continuation of the report on the PDP crisis. And it says, Arakpaja Mimiko tipped as IU's likely replacement. And let's take a look at the riders as Wike ally. Governors meet in Paris, London. BOT chairman insists on rejection of lopsidedness in positions, assures of peaceful resolution of crisis. Well, we don't have much time. Perhaps that would be a reminder for the PDP this morning. Let's go above the nameplates to see some stories. You'll find an update on the ASU strike. It says, strike, FG yet to resolve contending issues. ASU replies, Minister. It's rendered differently in another paper. I think, as we're saying, we haven't received 100 million naira from the federal government. And lastly, FG initiates plans to reduce infrastructure deficit. That's the Daily Times this morning for you.
When we take this break and return, our first conversation is around the 2023 elections. Please stay with us.
Just like the Senate, the House of Representatives is working on the legislation to establish the National Electoral Offences Commission, and this gathering is to get the input of major stakeholders on the bill. The establishment of the National Electoral Offences Commission is part of the reforms of Nigeria's electoral laws by Parliament intended to enable free, fair and credible elections. The chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission believes that reforming the country's electoral process cannot be complete without effective sanctions on electoral offenders, a task he says is overburdening the commission.
INEC is saddled with the responsibility of prosecuting electoral offenders under the Electoral Act. This has been very challenging for the Commission. For instance, since the 2015 general election, 125 cases of electoral offenses were filed in various courts, out of which 60 convictions have so far been secured. So I recommend the establishment of the Electoral Offenses Commission.
He stresses that INEC would like to see more successful prosecution of sponsors of electoral offenses.
The ballot box snatcher is unlikely to be a beneficiary of the election. The person who gives money at the polling unit is unlikely to be a beneficiary of the election. And these shenanigans will not stop until we get to their sponsors, the high-profile sponsors of these violations, and make an example out of them.
However, the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission opposes the establishment of a separate commission to investigate and prosecute electoral offenders in the country.
Section 145 of the Electoral Act also have already given power, prosecutorial power, to the INEC to prosecute the criminal offenses. So it's our position that there's no need to create an agency solely for the purpose of investigating and prosecuting electoral offenses, most especially when our electoral processes is seasonal in nature.
The House of Representatives Committee on Electoral Matters is expected to collate the views expressed at this public hearing and prepare a report for the lower chamber. If passed, the bill will be harmonized with the legislation already approved in the Senate. Linda Akibi, Channels Television News.
It's all in the push for free, fair, credible elections over the years. But what are the chances that this will see the light of day before the elections ahead? Chamberlain.
Well, yeah, we're going to take a look at that, the plan to create this National Commission on Electoral Offences. And two gentlemen, as you may have seen in that slide, join us this morning to shed light on the matter. Honorable Aneka Nomana is a member, Committee on Media and Public Affairs. He's here with us in the studios. And then we'll have Afam Osigwe, who is a senior advocate of Nigeria. He joins us virtually. Gentlemen, good morning, and thank you for joining us on the program today.
Thank you for having me.
All right.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Let me start with you, Honorable Nomana. You heard divergent views about this in the House, so perhaps you could just give us the thinking of your colleagues in the House about this bill. Do they think it's really a worthy cause to go ahead in light of how something maybe not?
Thank you very much, Chamberlain and Markwe, and thank you, Channels TV, for having me this morning. In my opinion, I think it is a very important piece of proposed legislation for our country. I think at the time that we are fine-tuning the electoral processes, at the time that we are hoping that the country will come up with a credible electoral system that we can say that be clean, something Nigerians can believe in, we cannot isolate or run away from the issue of how to properly prosecute electoral offenders. And we all know that elections in Nigeria have been characterized by violence, offenses, ballot snatching, vote buying, and all sort of things. So those are the issues this bill intends to cure. And as you are aware, it's a consolidation of about 4 private member bills and championed by the chairman of the Electoral Committee in the House, Honorable Aishatu Duku, who's done a good job of putting all of this together, and alongside the Senate bill, the one that was approved by the Senate, which has come to the House for concurrence. So I think a good job has been done so far. And a public hearing was held yesterday, and if you listen to the speech made by the deputy speaker who represented the speaker, and of course the chairman of the committee, Aishat Duku. She took time to allay all of these fears. She highlighted some of the instances and examples of electoral offenses, and of course the responsibility of INEC. INEC is overwhelmed. From 2011 only, INEC is saddled with over 870 cases. Can INEC truly handle those things or prosecute them? The answer is no. People may also say, yeah, at the time that the country is thinking of reducing the number of agencies or reducing cost of governance, why think of another commission? Some commissions are more important than others.
So what does the House think about that, or some members think about that?
That is why I'm saying it's a consolidation of private member bills. So if 4 people came up with the same bill, it therefore suggests that it's something of interest to many. And of course, when it came up for second reading on June 30th, it was overwhelmingly supported. It went through the second reading. So our members think it's important, Nigerian electorate think it's important, and I think politicians themselves and critical institutions and civil society organizations think it's important. So we must harness all these views together and see how we can fine-tune and continue to better the electoral process in Nigeria.
Right. Mr. Sigwe, now having listened to Honorable Omana, and then would you, for those who worry or raise concern about duplicity of laws, especially concerning prosecution of electoral offenders, do you think they got a huge concern here? Are they valid concerns?
First of all, I think that the creation of a special court to create electoral offenses is unnecessary, is uncalled for, and it should not concern us at this time. Now, we keep advocating for the creation of courts, institutions, without caring about the financial implications of these bodies in our lean finances. I read newspaper reports that suggested that the federal government may have borrowed over 4 trillion naira to finance, over 3 trillion naira to finance deficit in its budget as at April 2022. The audited report of the World Bank rated Nigeria as the 5th most indebted country with a debt stock of over $11 billion. And we are borrowing to finance our budget, borrowing to finance so many things. And we're sitting down thinking about creating yet another court that will put in place another bureaucracy. And we keep amending laws. Our legislature keep amending laws as if electoral issues are much more important than the lives and the welfare of the people. One would have expected this National Assembly to be interested in making laws that enhance the security and welfare of the people, considering their situation we face in many parts of this country. Whether 4 persons came up with this bill should not be our concern. What should be the priority of the National Assembly? To increase security. Now, the value of the Nigerian naira has been on a slide, a downward slide. People cannot travel to so many places. What laws are we putting in place to ensure or to enhance the ability of the law enforcement agencies to look into these issues? It's always an election. And like what in the video played in the run-up to this discussion, one of their colleagues said, election is seasonal. Of course that it is seasonal. So when there are no more electoral offenses to be tried, what will this court be doing? How many cases have actually been tried by the bodies that can try them now? Some of the reports you get are only about EFCC prosecuting these cases because more of money laundering elements of the electoral offenses. Now we keep creating courts because people feel they can pass law, they have enough majority to do them. Of what use is it to the society? We amend our constitution to make it easy for pre-election matters to be concluded within time. We neglect the economy. We neglect to do things and amend our laws to ensure that we get foreign direct investment. Nobody will come to invest in Nigeria because we keep amending our laws to make it easier for politicians to contest elections or for electoral offenses to be prosecuted. Nobody will invest in an environment that is considered unsafe. Nobody will invest in an environment where it's not easy for you to repatriate whatever money you make from the investment. And I think the National Assembly should be a bit more, should sit up and focus on issues that are much more important than some of these issues they keep chasing after. Special courts for what? How many of these cases have been taken to the regular courts and the regular courts failed to do anything about them? Why must we keep creating things and creating things?
If I may come in, I would like to ask you, for you as a lawyer, how weighty do you think that electoral offenses are? Because some people say that these are offenses that can undermine, they have the ability to undermine our entire system, our entire democracy, and that we should be able to take punishment of this sort of offenses very seriously, that they deter people from wanting to participate in the process. So for you, do you agree with the description of this description of electoral offenses? If you don't, how weighty do you think that electoral offenses are?
Now, I'm not suggesting the electoral offenses should be treated with levity. But I'm saying all the ones that have been committed over the years, how many of them have been taken to court? How many of them have been investigated or prosecuted? How many persons who even the tribunals, electoral tribunals, have found to have rigged the elections or committed various electoral offenses have been tried and have been charged to court or even investigated beyond what transpired at the election tribunal?
Isn't that precisely why we need an electoral offenses commission?
Why do you think?
Because INEC says that they are overwhelmed.
Why do you? Because we keep making laws for the wrong reasons. Why should INEC be saddled with the responsibility of investigating and prosecuting electoral offenses? What is the police there for? What are the law enforcement agencies there for, if not to do these things? How many have been taken to the existing regular courts? Have we shown that the regular courts have failed to justify the need for that court now called special? The Federal High Court started as a Federal Revenue Court. Today it has transmitted into a multi-jurisdictional court. The National Industrial Court has come on board to treat labor matters. Now it has become so formalized that even the poor person, saved from his job, who should ordinarily be able to walk into this court to litigate his matter, cannot do that without the involvement of lawyers. And lawyers have come with the same formalized mode of doing things in our various high courts into the National Industrial Court, that the idea of creating it, which is to speed up trials, is not working out. Why don't we focus on amending our laws, our rules of court, ensure that that's when they're taken to court, move at the pace they should move? Why don't we focus on the things that are much more important? The security and lives of the welfare of people undermine the security of our nation more than electoral offenses. People are dying. What laws are the National Assembly making to make it easier?
Let's have Mr. Mana respond to some of those issues you raised. Well, you heard him there about how he thinks, well, we may be focusing on the wrong things at the moment.
Yeah, well, thank you very much. The distinguished senior advocate has made his point. And of course, everyone is concerned about the security situation. So there is no question about not being bothered. We are bothered as a people. The National Assembly has been in the forefront of advocacy and the forefront of putting up actions and moves to ensure that the security agencies are empowered. Everything that has to do with security has been done, has been given some expedited passage in terms of finances, in terms of requests and all of that will aid security in this country. The Speaker is, the Honourable Speaker of the House of Representatives has not paid lip service to anything security. He takes it upon himself. He's met severally, he's intervened at various levels, and whatever has to do with security has been taken very seriously by this National Assembly, and it's a major concern. But again, it is not the responsibility of the National Assembly to implement those security day-to-day work. Ours is that of lawmaking and giving support to the executive.
I think part of the point is that we're going about this the wrong way, trying to create special courts, because he says, did we even backtrack, for instance, all of those court cases which you also mentioned, which INEC is burdened with, how many of them have actually been taken to court to warrant us saying, look, we need special courts? You had INEC saying that they have no capacity to handle this. From 2011, 870,000 cases. One agency that's saddled with election management. Yeah, so here's one. Why do we have to saddle INEC with that responsibility? Because you also heard in that same briefing the rep of the EFCC says that the EFCC, the ICPC, I think the police also, they've got excellent laws to investigate some of these cases. In fact, some of them are being investigated by those bodies.
Yeah, but I
Why
think it's a question of capacity. It still boils down to capacity.
Capacity of what? Of INEC or those agencies?
No, capacity of those agencies. Look at the number of polling units.
Okay, so if it's a question of capacity,
in the entire country.
Yeah, so why is the House
size of our police?
Why is the House not thinking about strengthening or enhancing their capacity as opposed to creating special?
No, because of the specialized nature of these issues. And we must also understand that the crux of leadership emanates from the electoral process and the kind of elections that we have, the kind of leaders that we produce. So nobody can say to me, in my opinion, that anything that will fine-tune the electoral process and give confidence to the process and to the outcome of elections and to Nigerians and make Nigerians see the need to follow the law in terms of elections and election management is less important. No, I think it's important enough.
But if I
did we not have
did
we not have the police when the EFCC was established?
If I understand this point,
did we not have the police?
Well,
it's because some of these issues are specialized.
When he was asked the question by Michael, he says, look, he's not saying that we should trivialize or shouldn't give it the pride of place. But the method, the way we're going about it, is not the right way. They're two different things.
No, what is the method? There is a proposed law. And it's about Nigerians. That's why there was a public hearing. You know how the legislature works. It's not because a bill has come and therefore it automatically becomes a law. No. That's why Nigerians want to make input. That's just like he's making input. The learned senior advocate has every right to make the input he's making. We have our own right to make our own input. Nigerians did yesterday. We listened to various shades of opinion. You listen to INEC, we listen to EFCC, we listen to various, of course, civil society organizations. So in the baking of this bill that will become law, possibly in future, various shades of opinions will be harnessed in. So the majority of the opinion that comes in support means that it will become, it will get passed.
Maybe we should get
Otherwise, if that is not the case, it's not just about the lawmakers. No, it's not about the lawmakers. That's why a public hearing was held yesterday.
Right. Mr. Sigwe, so what would you rather have, how would you have the House or the National Assembly approach this matter?
Now, he has talked about over 700,000 cases being investigated. I didn't hear the investigation has been concluded. He could not give us the figure of how many of these cases that have been stored in court and for how long. He could not also say that the courts are proved to be unable to handle the sheer magnitude of these cases, assuming they exist and where they exist. It worries me that we elect men and women into the legislature who create institutions without giving us a projection of what it would cost the government to provide infrastructure for this call, for personnel, for so many things in the next 5 years, for example, and the impact on the economy, and the impact on our already bad financial situation. You provide courtrooms, you provide vehicles, you employ people, you provide for the things you need to run for this cause. People just sit down and think, oh, let me be able to report to my constituency that I sponsored a bill. And then because you can get your colleagues to agree with you, then you pass first, second reading, maybe in one day, then pass it in the very next day, and then you leave the society with the burden of these laws you create. Let him show me to what extent the police has been interested in investigating electoral offenses and charging them to court. Let him provide the figures. Let him show how the current court system cannot handle these cases to provide the need for there to be a special court to handle electoral offenses. So if we can't answer these questions, we should focus on other things and not this.
All right,
and
so
I insist,
yeah, okay, go ahead. Were you about to make a point on what you'd rather have us do?
That we cannot every morning we wake up and think that a particular thing needs a special, we suddenly rush into court and pass a law to attend to that thing. We're becoming a nation of a court for everything. Some people say there should be a special court for corruption cases. There should be a special court for this. Tomorrow there will be a special court for we continue things that we have better problems to address. Can't we expect more? Can this National Assembly look at chapter 2 of the Constitution and look at the issues to prioritize? Can this National Assembly look at section 14(2)(b), we say that security and welfare of the people should be the primary aim of government. To what extent are laws being made to fit into those sections so that people will have a better life?
Okay, so Mr. Sigwe, now, yeah, you've spoken about how they need to show you or let Nigerians know that there is indeed a need to create special courts. But now that we're at this point, if we need to strengthen the process and ensure that we address the question of electoral offenses or reduce it to the barest minimum, if not to eliminate it completely, what would you have us do, or the National Assembly do, to address that particular challenge?
Now, a number of improvements were introduced into the Electoral Act 2022 to ensure that there's democracy in the political parties. You know, the myriad of cases that have come up after the primaries for the 2022 general election shows that failure to imbibe democratic culture is at the root of this thing. If also there is no accountability, if people feel they can get away with anything, impunity, if the law enforcement agencies will rather pander to the whims and caprices of politicians rather than do their work. So we must employ the right persons in the police force, equip them, detach, insulate the law enforcement agencies from politics. So irrespective of the party in power in any particular state, to do their duty the way they're supposed to. That is the first starting point. If we want people to have a credible electoral process that you do not need to snag ballot box or try to hack into the BVAC or any other thing that is used to conduct the election, those are starting points, or try to falsify results, and where we ensure that actions have consequences. Because politicians will tell you, just get declared winner and leave the rest, let us go into court. It's better to be the person in power fighting the petitioner trying to unseat you than to be the one declared the loser. This winner takes it all mindset. If we do things, if we imbibe the spirit of the laws and the law enforcement agencies work, and the courts are allowed to do their work without being blamed, implicitly being blamed for failing, when the court's ability to handle these cases has not been put to a test.
All right, Mr. Sigwe, just a moment. Mr. Madonwa, you respond, but let's bring in our colleagues from Lagos who's got questions for you lot. Go ahead, guys.
Thank you, Chamberlain. Let me begin with Mr. Sigwe. Well, there are some of the things that you have said, you know, just only remind me of some agencies of government that have been either created or extracted from an existing agency to serve some other purposes. For instance, the Nigerian police. Part of the functions of the Nigerian police is to detect crimes and prevent the crimes. But the EFCC was created to focus on financial crimes. Crime is crime. Though some would say, okay, well, the functions of the police was, you know, a bit of it was extracted and given to EFCC, and a law was set up accordingly. There are those who would also look at the police, the same police, and look at the functions of traffic control, traffic management and all. It would seem like we weren't doing that well enough, so we created the FRSC, and then there is, you know, so many other agencies like that. Look at also the Code of Conduct Bureau and Code of Conduct Tribunal. It would seem like these functions, they were just literally drilled down to ensure that we're able to focus on the crucial issues that affect some of the matters that concern us in society. So if we do the same thing that we did with the EFCC and the CCB, CCT, is there any crime in that? Wouldn't that help the process better?
Again, I didn't get your question at the end of it.
Well, you heard the comparisons that I made with those other agencies, but now INEC is saying, well, we have a law, okay, that says we should do this, but we are overwhelmed. We can't really do it ourselves. Let's extract this particular function as it was extracted from the police, for the EFCC, and some other issues like that. What's wrong with that?
See, that the INEC said it is overwhelmed with the power given to it to investigate and prosecute does not equate to a request to create a court. Carrying out the duty of investigating and taking the matter to court is different from which court should handle these cases. And that's what we're talking about. They want to set up a special court to try electoral offenses. Now, this same power that has been given to INEC can as well be carried out by the police. Because like you've said, the duty of the police is to detect, prevent, investigate crimes.
Police has not been able to do that.
This?
That's the challenge.
And I challenge Honorable Mana to show that the courts, the existing courts, have proved incapable of handling these cases to justify the need for a special court.
If the EFCC, just a second, Mr. Sigwe, just a second. Let's have this conversation. If the police...
I have a bit of a problem hearing you very well, sir.
Well, can you at least hear me a bit better now? Can you hear me well?
It's a bit better, yeah.
Okay. If the police couldn't sufficiently, persuasively, excuse me, handle financial crimes, consequently, EFCC was created. If the law that set up the CCB also set up the CCT, while some collect and investigate some things, and that the Code of Conduct Bureau recognizes that these things are faulty, they transfer it to the tribunal. What's wrong with doing that same thing for our elections?
I'm glad you keep referring to the Code of Conduct Tribunal. I thought I could ignore it, but since you keep going back to it, how many cases have been prosecuted by the Code of Conduct Tribunal? How many? Except for the few occasions where certain sensational cases make it into the news headlines. How many cases? Do you have an idea how much that body drains from our public finances? Do you have any idea? You can't even get a declaration from the Public Bureau, Code of Conduct Bureau. And these are things that should aid the fight against corruption. EFCC and ICPC were created because EFCC especially because of a request by the FATA, Financial Action Task Force. But nothing even said it must be an independent agency. In some other countries, bodies like the EFCC, equivalent of bodies like the EFCC, are somewhat affiliated to the police. You can't point out to a country that has created a special court for electoral.
Mr. Sigwe, just one second.
You cannot find it if it exists in a third world country.
Are you by any way suggesting that the functions of the CCT be merged with the CCB?
I don't know why I keep having a problem hearing you very well.
Can you hear me better now?
It gets better then. But go ahead.
Interesting.
I'll listen very well.
Okay. Are you by any chance suggesting that the functions of the CCB and the CCT and the CCT be merged into one agency?
Because that is not the main subject of discussion. I made reference to that to show how we create bodies that we don't really feel their impact in the society. There are so many agencies for crop science, agency for fruits, agency for this. You only hear once in a while and don't get to see what they do. And they have an entire bureaucracy. Every day they defend the budget, money is released, and people are somewhere embezzling for public funds out of the eyes of the public without adding positively to the life of the society. And we're embarking on the move again to create special courts. And I bet you some person will already be warming up for appointment. Don't worry, we'll create it, you'll be appointed a judge there. Don't worry, we'll create it, you're appointed the chief registrar. Then we'll create it and you do this. It's more sometimes also more about like job for the boys. We have 37 high courts of states, 36 states and FCT. We have the federal high court. Show me that these courts cannot handle these cases. And that is how people pass laws. You bring empirical evidence. This number of cases, this courts are overwhelmed because they are so there's need to not have this. We don't have these details. Nothing. 4 individuals, honorable members, of course.
Well, senior advocate, let's see. Senior Advocate Sigwe, let's see if yet again Honorable Mana will be able to puncture some of your arguments. But I'd like to take Honorable Mana a bit back in time, to the origins of the bill and how it has had a long lifespan, since 2016. I recall Honorable Dieg, complaining that he was initial proponent of the bill, and it was stood down without any serious justification. And in fact, this bill has had an input also from a member of the upper chamber, the Senate. And if I could add to that also, the House leader sought to know why he was not consulted about it being incorporated to move for the second reading of the bill. So it seems as if there's a lot of interest, in this bill. What is the reason for it now gaining, what really is the reason for the new momentum on the bill to establish an Electoral Offences Commission?
Yeah, thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Go ahead,
yes,
Honorable
I think
Mana.
all of those were resolved through the process of consolidation. If you listened earlier, I said that it was a consolidation of 4 private member bills and that from the Senate. So all the issues raised were resolved through that consolidation. Yes, you mentioned Honorable John Day. Yes, there was also Honorable Uduyok, and of course the House leader. I was in the Parliament. I was in the sitting on that particular day. So that was the reason for the consolidation of these bills, so you can harmonize and produce one bill, one document that takes into account every interest. Coming back to what the learned senior advocate talked about countries or where this has happened, yes, I know that in Canada, we have a similar commission, in Nepal, in the Philippines, and several others. So it's not about saying that it's just about elections or so. Everybody understands the problems of this country, but in the crux of it is that of leadership. We must fine-tune the process that produces leaders. We must fine-tune the process that produces credible elections.
Yes, that challenge is significant, but the question is, a number of questions to ask, of course, within the 4 of us, my colleagues. Why take so long? What do we do going forward? We'll explore more of that when we return from this break. Please stay with us. With us. Honorable Imana, you were responding to my colleague the other time. Perhaps you may want to land on that with this question. Perhaps, I mean, you've referenced the fact that there are some countries that have the same law and all of that. So perhaps there needs to be some kind of background to it so that people can understand. This conversation, as Bukola mentioned earlier, is not just starting now. And there are those who would argue, how come it was perhaps initially shut down in the National Assembly, and now it has gotten to a point where there is a public debate on it. So perhaps there is a need for some background onto why it was shut down previously and how come we got here now.
Yes, thank you very much. I see you understanding how the legislature works. It will depend on the firmament and the thinking of the people at the time. But it does not erode the need for an idea or for a bill to come back or to be represented. No. The fact that it was shut down does not mean that it cannot come back. How long did it take us to pass the PIA?
But that's not to
How long
say, Honorable,
did it take us to get through the
just a second, Honorable. That is not to say that
yes,
the challenge of ballot snatching and all those things were not as significant, if not more significant at the time. Remember, former late President Yar'Adua was saying that the process that brought him to power was flawed and needed some work. And so if it dates that far back, one is wondering, why would it be shut down when the challenge was that significant?
Yeah, well, it is important that the process is taken up at any time it comes up. That is our business. In my opinion, any piece of legislation or bill or proposal that's important, whether it fails to pass through in a previous assembly, does not mean that it cannot come back. The issue of electoral offenses has been with us since the beginning of elections in Nigeria. And then we cannot blind our eyes to electoral offenses and issues. We must continue to attend to these issues, just like we did for the Electoral Act. And of course, Nigerians are happy for it. We have seen the outcome of the Osun and the elections. And of course, it gives more hope to Nigerians as to what to expect in 2023. So the fact that this commission bill has come up now does not mean that it was less important in previous assemblies or in previous years. It is here now. Nigerians have made their contributions, and we'll get through the process and see how it goes. But it's as important as it is that we must push for the fine-tuning of our electoral processes. We must push to ensure that we have sanctity and dignity in the processes, and people must understand that there must be do's and don'ts in our electoral regime at any given time.
Well, Honorable Aniekan, I wonder if there is more to the interest, the renewed interest, than meets the eye, you know, for lawmakers on this one. But I'd like to quickly come to Senior Advocate Osigwe with this one. I'm glad you followed the report before the conversation started, and I recall that the INEC chairman was saying that we must go after the electoral offenders, must go after, I noted he specifically said, the high-profile sponsors of electoral offenses. And if you were to look for high profile, you can't look any further. I hate to be direct, but it is the politicians now who are passionate and vigorously pursuing the electoral the bill for an act to create an electoral offenses commission. Is this significant for you, Senior Advocate Osigwe? That it is the politicians who are demanding this now?
Not at all.
Yes, go ahead. Tell us why it is not significant.
Because even while these politicians are pushing for, the enactment of this law, it has not stopped them from stockpiling money to buy votes on election day. He has referred to Ekiti and Osun, and we all read media reports about how votes were openly being bought and paid for. How many persons have been prosecuted? The problem is in our will to enforce the laws, not about where the laws will be enforced. And I keep insisting we must draw that distinction. Somebody who wants an electoral offenses commission. If people use money to corrupt electoral offenses, they can be prosecuted under the money laundering laws we have in place by the EFCC. If people use violence to intimidate voters, to destroy electoral materials, to manipulate the electoral system, they can be prosecuted under the existing laws we have.
Then,
that's why
Mr. Sigwe,
I challenge them to produce facts and figures.
If I may come in there now, if there's no altruism in the intention of the lawmakers to pursue an electoral offenses commission, the establishment of a commission to try electoral offenses, what really is the interest in it for you?
I mean, it was interesting hearing your colleague, or was it you, say that the leader of the House did not know about this. In what parliament does a law come up for debate without being presented by the leader of the party in power or those proposing it? 4 persons, 4-member bills being presented for reading and the leader knew nothing about it. That should tell us so much. And that's why I say some people simply want it to be said, I have passed a law, so that when they go to their constituency, I'm the one that proposed this law. I presented this bill before the National Assembly. For some people, it's a matter of ego. I am the one that did it. And I'm certain that not much thought was given to the reason why these bills were stepped down in the past. And not much improvement may have been made. Maybe because the INEC chairman said, oh, we need to have an electoral offences tribunal commission. We're overwhelmed. And somebody dusted up these bills and decided to push for them to get back on the front burner. And I keep insisting, can somebody show us that it is imperative or that the present court system has failed or proved incapable of trying these offenses? Can somebody give us the figures of not cases reported, but cases successfully investigated and charged to court in respect of these matters? And aside from the EFCC, and maybe a few times by the police, how much? And like the EFCC position on the matter, they said that the capacity of the law enforcement agencies to investigate and try this and prosecute these cases should be enhanced. And that should be our focus. Not creating special courts, for goodness sake.
So, Honorable Mana, perhaps
we can't continue to go on like this. We can't and can't.
Yeah, your point taken. Honorable Mana, would you like to respond to some of the poses raised by the senior advocate, and perhaps to also add to the concern that perhaps if the problem is lack of personnel, then INEC should be strengthened with personnel to try electoral offences so that the federal government is not burdened with extra cost on the wage bill of agencies?
Yes, I completely agree with the senior advocate on the issue of cost of governance and all of that. But frankly speaking, electoral issues, electoral matters, and the particularly issue of electoral offenses has lived with us here since independence, since the beginning. So must we continue like this? We must devise new ways and new means of seeing how we can make this process better. And that is, here's my point. I think we must not rely on a system that has not worked. It has not worked from the beginning of our independence to date. I don't know how else we are going to get this done if we don't specialize these things and get agencies that will be focused. We can reduce cost of governance in different areas, but there are important things that we need to address. So at the crux, I insist, at the crux of the leadership of this nation and of getting things to work is the electoral process, the process of leadership recruitment.
That point is clear, quite
ensuring that people do what they ought to do, and then we now have those who will now focus on these issues specifically and ensure that we get justice as to when we should get them in the manner that we should get them.
So is it fair to then say that the posturing of the House or the Assembly is that they will go ahead and pass this law, no matter whatever perspectives are there?
No, that cannot be the posturing. It cannot be the posturing. In my opinion, the making of a law goes through very detailed processes. And of course, it's gone through first and second reading, it's gone through...
Yeah, that's normal, that's the process.
It's gone through public hearing.
Now, speak to the concerns raised.
Various opinions have been harnessed and they will be incorporated. That's how it works. If it's not good enough, of course it won't go.
No, because I think everybody's on the same page in terms of something needs to be done about electoral offences.
Yes.
They all agree.
Yes.
But what and how it should be done is where the bone of contention is now, I reckon. And the thing, what the SAN has also alluded to is that, well, we have to show or demonstrate that the courts have not done what they're supposed to do, or that these cases, this amount of cases have been successfully investigated and not the ones that are being investigated. And then it's now interpreted as though it's a failure or it's a big problem with the entire system. Because if you create a special court now for this, what are the chances that these same problems won't surface?
Yeah, I believe that the commission will be focused.
Are the police not focused?
They will be focused on that particular issue.
On just that?
On that,
every 4 years?
It's big enough.
Every 4 years?
870,000 cases from 2011. How can we really get through them so quickly?
We'll focus on that every 4 years.
It's not an easy process. We don't, mark you, we don't have one election every 4 years. We have off-season elections. We have several other things happening in between. An electoral offense is not just about one election. You could have a national election like we're proposing in 2023. Of course, we had off-season elections and several other elections. So I think it's important we understand these issues, look at the merits and demerits, and then see what works for the generality of Nigerians. In my opinion, I think we should harness all of the opinions and see how it works. Because that is how the legislature works. It's not because member-sponsored bills or maybe there's an executive bill and then automatically it becomes law. No, that's not how it happens. How it happens is that various opinions, debates, and viewpoints will be harnessed. And of course, if there is a reason for issues not to get through, Nigerians will see that.
Yeah,
but if there is enough reasons like we have today, we have seen the myriad of electoral problems, and of course, we need to tackle this thing and nip it at the root of it.
The way you speak, it looks like this bill is already a fait accompli. It's going to come. No. It's going to come to life.
That's not what I'm saying.
That's how you sound.
No, that's not what I'm saying. But I personally believe in it.
Okay.
So, in my opinion, I think it's the right thing to do.
Okay.
I personally believe in it. Of course, you have every other person has the right to hold his or her opinion on this. But this is my opinion, and I think it's the right thing to do, considering how this nation is, how it works, the size of this country, the quantum of problems, the number of political units,
so
the number of
wards, I want to come to the problems,
yes,
you know, that bedevil our country, and I think part of the points that the senior advocate has raised is the fact that, you know, for almost every agency that you point to, many agencies of government are not performing at their optimal. They're not performing at their optimal.
The issue of performance is not of the legislature.
No, just a moment. The thing right now is it that, you know, we're ignoring what will seem to be the elephant in the room? The fact that it is because our agencies are performing below par. That's why we're unable to tackle something as straightforward as electoral offenses. And rather than look for how to tackle that, we think that creating another, you know, special offenses commission will be the solution to that. Isn't that what exactly the issue is?
No, I understand the point is made, but it doesn't take away the business of lawmaking and oversight. So looking at that's essentially what we're elected to do. And in our opinion, if we could find an idea good enough and propose them, of course, it goes through the baking to see if it comes to light. Of course, the opinion of Nigerians and various viewpoints will be harnessed to see how this works out for Nigerians. But coming back to the issue of agencies performing or not performing, that is strictly an executive function. Ours is oversight. Yes, we have a duty to oversight
over the government agencies, over the executive.
I agree. Ours is oversight.
Indeed.
So where we have to oversight, we need to make those complaints and raise those issues, which is what you are seeing every day. I think the parliament must be commended for bringing up so many issues that are bedeviling this country in different. So that is our job, and we must continue to do this.
Yes, but the question is,
we have done that.
How well have those issues been resolved to produce results? That's the question. How, for instance, INEC, you had this many cases. What was hindering you from being able to prosecute it? Is a lack of capacity? What if there was another desk? What if, you know, people were employed? These are questions. So when these issues are raised, for instance, to what end are they raised? Is it just for them to be captured in the media?
No, they are raised to be solved, and you can solve them in different ways. You can solve them through internal mechanisms, if you want. If you feel that will solve the problem, of course, you can also solve them by creating a completely new idea that you think will help solve the problem.
So let me ask you about this. When the senior advocate raises the issue about our current financial state and how we're almost borrowing, I think, to even pay salaries, you know, does it really make sense that where we are right now, we set up another agency?
For me, if an agency is important enough, it could be set up. If it's important enough, we can make savings and cuts from different areas. There are areas that are more important than others. And I did say, and I'll continue to say, that the crux of this thing lies in our electoral process and the recruitment of leadership. If we get that right, so many other factors will run through seamlessly.
Let me quickly...
Once we get leadership right,
okay.
and once we get our electoral process right, and we get Nigerians to believe in the electoral process, and Nigerians to know that if you go for an election, you elect a leader, it's because he was truly elected.
Okay.
He was elected devoid of malpractices, offenses, and all of that. So we will hold such a person accountable. Leadership is critical, and leadership recruitment is at the crux of the whole all of this. If we have the right type of leadership, I think we would have solved so many of our problems ab initio.
Let me quickly throw this last one to the senior advocate. Mr. Oshigwe, I was wondering if, because part of what I heard you say, and you emphasize that is our current financial state. Assuming our financial status were to improve, would you really have a problem with the setting up of this Electoral Offences Act Commission, assuming it finally sails through? Would you really have a problem with it?
Absolutely, I still have a lot of problems with this. I pointed out to our present situation and also pointed to the fact that we keep setting up agencies without really giving a projection of their effect on our finances, to also show that sometimes not much thinking goes into these bills. Not much thinking goes into gathering statistics to justify our argument. And it's a contradiction in terms, if you ask me, for leaders who oftentimes emerge through violation of electoral processes and are still violating it to pretend to be the ones who care so much about this.
How much more statistics do you want? If we have over 800,000 cases since 2011 and we've only been able to successfully prosecute 60,000.
Doesn't that speak to you about inefficiency in the system? These cases, mind you, are still being investigated. They have not been charged to court. And I keep drawing that distinction. If cases were reported and we are tallying up the numbers without trying to find out why haven't the investigation of these cases been concluded? Why haven't cases been charged to court? And then suddenly we want to set up a court. When the things that should get us into the court, we have not asked questions why they haven't been done or why they are not being done. A gentleman from Kaduna boasted that he made so much money because he was a delegate to the party's House of Assembly and state gubernatorial and whatever primaries. A former minister stated that people were induced to vote in the primaries. These things are not being investigated. Doesn't that speak to you about lack of will to do what we should do? And that's why I talked about separating the law enforcement agencies, insulating them from politics, in training efficiency and putting the right persons. Is it an issue of staffing? Is it an issue of funding? Is it an issue of lack of professionalism?
All right.
Because if we don't ask the critical right questions, we'll be doing the wrong thing. And we can't continue doing the wrong thing and expecting to get good answers.
All right, Mr. Osigwe. Well, in conclusion, Honorable Domana, what is the next step or next phase after the public hearing has held?
Well, of course, that gets into the report stage. That will be the harnessing of all of the shades of opinion and so on to weigh the pros and cons and to actually know if Nigerians truly want this or not. If the civil society and all of those stakeholders truly want this or not, of course, harness their inputs and see how this could be fine-tuned. That's how it works.
When you talk about if Nigerians want this, Nigerians want many things. Nigerians want many politicians to resign because they can't perform, but Nigerians never get what they want in those cases. So this time, I think it's what the politicians, the House of Reps members or National Assembly want, that they eventually do. So it's not necessarily what Nigerians want.
Actually, Chamberlain, is a proposal. Truth is that Nigerians are represented by different shades of opinion. Civil society, of course, politicians, different organizations.
Okay, but above all else,
so
the financial consideration is huge in this country. If we lack funds, if we're borrowing to pay salaries, that has to be considered. If the government wants to implement our own saying reports,
we should do better.
They need to consider some of those.
We need to do better than that as a nation.
I guess we'll wait and see. We'll look towards all of that and hope that the decisions that will be taken will be in the best interest of the country. So we have to thank both gentlemen, Honorable Anek Onomana, Member, House Committee on Public Affairs and Media, as well as Mr. Afam Osigwe, Senior Advocate of Nigeria. Gentlemen, thank you both for your time today.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you, Mark.
All right, we will be back in just a moment. Don't go away. All right, welcome back to Sunrise Daily. Yes, we'll be talking about Ebonyi politics, and as you've seen at that welcoming slide, Anne Agomeze joins us this morning. Good morning. Thank you for coming on today.
Thank you very much, Chamberlain.
You know, there's lots of back and forth. So how do we describe you now? Are you Ebonyi South Senatorial candidate for the party, or you say, yes, you fight for it, that is clear. What is the current situation at the moment?
As far as I'm concerned, I am the candidate.
Oh.
Because the judgment of 22nd of June, thereabouts, proclaimed me the candidate. So for me, I am the candidate for the Ebonyi South Senatorial Zone. Though the case is a court, it's still ongoing, but I'm the candidate.
Okay, but ever since that decision, that primary, you know that part of the argument they put out there is that the party, after the resignation of the person who won, actually have the right to conduct fresh primaries upon resignation, and the party deems it necessary, and the relevant notices have been sent to INEC and the lot. They can go ahead. Are you considering factoring that in as well?
Well, I don't know about that, because looking at the 2022 electoral law, I don't think that makes it very possible, because the electoral law provides that you're on your lane. You can't finish one and go to the other. And as far as I'm concerned, and as far as INEC is concerned, the primary of that 28th of May is the authentic primaries. So, and if what you're saying, we have to go by it, INEC didn't recognize that primary. So I don't know.
So when you say that you believe that you are the candidate of the senatorial candidate for Ebonyi South Senatorial District, how would you say you emerged, given the fact that in the first primary that was conducted, you acknowledged as much that you came second.
That's correct.
But much later, the candidate who came first withdrew from the race. How did you then emerge?
As a result of his withdrawal, because we're only 2 people in the class. And when one person says, oh, I'm no longer part of it, whoever that is left behind remains the only candidate.
This is regardless of whatever it is that your party has to say about it.
Well, I'm looking at the electoral law.
Okay, so let's look at that part of the Electoral Act which you seem to be quoting. I believe that's section 115. Is that correct? Where it says a person who signs a nomination paper or result form as a candidate in more than one constituency at the same election commits an offense and is liable on conviction to a maximum term of imprisonment for 2 years. Is that the part you're referring to?
The part is there, section 115, you know, because once you vie for one position, you need to maintain your lane. And in the same electoral season, you can't vie for 2 different things.
That's what you're canvassing in court?
Yes.
But if you look at section 31 of the Electoral Act concerning withdrawal of candidates, where it says, quote, a candidate may withdraw his candidature by notice in writing signed by him and delivered personally by the candidate to the political party that nominated him, I keep saying him here, okay, nominated him for the election, and the political party shall convey such withdrawal to the commission not later than 90 days to the election. And then if you move a little further to 33, which speaks about political party changing candidates. It says a political party shall not be allowed to change or substitute its candidate whose name has been submitted under section 29 of this act, except in the case of death or withdrawal by the candidate, provided that in the case of such withdrawal or death of a candidate, the political party affected shall, within 14 days of the occurrence of the event, hold a fresh primary, operative word, fresh primary election to produce and submit a fresh candidate to the commission for the election concerned. Now, the party is claiming that we're within our rights to conduct a fresh primary.
Like I said, this case is in court. There are certain things I may not be able, because I'm not a lawyer, so I won't be able to comment so deeply about it. But all I do know is that the 2022 electoral law provides that if you're going for presidential, you maintain a lane. Because I believe when they did all that was to avoid all these controversies of finishing one and going for another one. Like, I mean, when my governor went for the presidential, he said he was, what did he use? That he has, that it was his destiny to be the president of this country. And now he also said that it is his destiny to be the senatorial candidate. You will not want to be president, and at the same time, you want to be the senatorial candidate. No. You know, like you rightly said, the brother won the election, so why didn't you allow the brother to go? These are very big questions.
Okay,
so why are we in this kind of, issues? So because the brother had relinquished his position, and I'm the only one left.
Now, how is it working within your party now? Because initially, you withdrew from you lost out in the first primary that was conducted. But now there are rumors that you have been expelled from the party. Is that correct?
That's not correct, because you and I know that you don't expel someone or suspend someone from a party without first and foremost letting the person know the offenses that the person has committed. I believe such offenses is supposed to have come in writing, letting me know you have committed A, B, C, D, or thereabouts, and then I should be able to respond. It is a consequence upon my response that I will be invited by a committee to look at those issues before a decision is taken. And also knowing that when they started this issue of suspension, it was all like a kangaroo. They went to my ward, consult tell them. And those ones said, no, she has done nothing. She has been the one supporting the ward. So why do you want her suspended? And they went ahead to tell them that that the lawyer has also served them because that the case is in court, that everybody should be calm. We all belong to APC, that when the decision is taken, that they will take it from there. But they will not act based on, they will not act because they have an order telling them not to do anything. No, they wouldn't stop. They had to invite them to Abakaliki, kept them in house arrest, trying to force them to do what they didn't want to do. Those ones had to even issue a statement as as the ward. That wasn't enough. They went back home. They said the next day they called them to Abakaliki again. These people have been back and forth, back and forth. And when they called them back and they said, oh, you must do this, it was at that point, according to my chairman, they were now telling them, oh, I did this, I did that. And those ones now said, okay, put them in writing so that we'll be able to call her to find out what she has done. And according to them, they set up a 7-man committee. This was happening until on a Thursday. By Friday, they came back and said they should go to local government. It was at that local government area that they tried to make the chairman to sign, and he got information that he was going to be attacked if he doesn't sign it. So the man quickly left. Till today, we don't even know where he is, but I know he's operating from somewhere. And there's lots of which, when they went to Afikpo, and they now, which is the headquarters of our senatorial zone, they now had an affirmation and said, I have been expelled. Let me tell you the other funny side of it. After the announcement, the next day, I was called, that they announced that I should call for disciplinary action. One now wonders, you say you expelled me, and you're calling me again for disciplinary action. At the radio, I have a house in Abakaliki. Nobody communicated me in any form. So
you don't have any official correspondence about this matter?
Nothing till today as I speak, apart from what we are reading on the newspapers and the video they made.
Well, what can you tell us about, there's this letter that was in circulation, which says
I don't know about it.
Which one is that?
Well, it's been circulating. I don't know about it. Whatever letter they are circulating.
Which one?
I don't know. You can go ahead.
Because it looks as if you know the letter of
No, I don't.
Oh, okay. Because it's actually a letter of withdrawal.
No, I didn't.
Your withdrawal.
I didn't.
And it says it's your signature. It has a stamp of the political party. It has different stamps all over it saying this was you voluntarily withdrawing. And that's what's on the screen at the moment.
That's not correct.
You didn't sign this letter?
I didn't sign it.
Because they said that you lied on the oath in court, and so that was not correct.
Well,
you actually
it is the court to prove it. I didn't lie. I didn't sign it. I didn't sign it.
So this letter,
because I don't know where they got that from.
And that's not your signature at all?
No, that's not my signature.
So as it stands now, since you're trying to see how all of this will be sorted, because we can't go into so much details of this matter. So for you, it is up until this matter is determined, you are maintaining that no matter what happens, that decision which you're waiting in the Court of Appeal will set the stage for what happens next.
That's correct, because we're already in court.
But how have you been reacting and coping with all of this at the moment? Yeah, even though the second letter, the same thing.
It hasn't been easy. It's been very bumpy. And being a woman, trying to insist on the tickets, since 2018, I've been on this journey. I contested in 2018 for the senatorial seat, and I came back again in 2022, and the party in their magnanimity trying to make sure that women are included in the legislation. They gave us free nomination form, we paid for expression of interest. So the journey has been very tough. Even going from the moment I bought that nomination form, it hasn't been easy for me. They never wanted me to submit it. During the screening, they tried to make sure that I'm screened out. And all that and all that. And even for me to go for the primaries, I keep saying it, the Commissioner of Police is there who will be a witness. They took me there and brought me back to my house because there were lots of drops of war. And I made up my mind, no matter what. I mean, we can't be in politics and be running away. They keep throwing stones, throwing all sorts of things on women, and that's why our numbers are dwindling by the day. And the only way is for us to stand on our feet. Whatever happens, I'm a retired permanent secretary. So what else am I looking for? I will continue to fight because we need to help the women out there. We need to help ourselves. We need to tell the world that, you know, we are also important. We can make our contributions. So if we continue to be afraid, then we can't get it right.
Now, when this matter, the court case, the first one came through, there was a lot of uncertainty as to what exactly is the current situation, because there was the judgment, which many saw, and in that particular judgment, where the court was saying that they had affirmed the governor as the candidate and that he has a right to contest. That's one of the ones that was seen. But then there were some persons saying, well, the text of that, what was read in court, appears to have been different from what, so it was confusing from both lawyers. Which one of them are you appealing?
It's not confusing. We start from the beginning. Even your channels carried it when the announcement was done. It was jubilation everywhere. Women are happy to get one person being included. So they are happy. People were laughing. People were rejoicing. The judgment that was delivered in court was carried by several newspapers, including your channels, you know. But surprisingly, by the following morning, the lawyer went to collect the CTC. The judgment had differed from what was read in the courts. What we are appealing in the courts is the parts we are not comfortable with. Now admitting other people into this particular matter and asking them to contest. Court cannot give you what you don't ask him for.
So how does that work? I mean, I know you must have been speaking with your lawyer. If there are two texts, a different one read in court, a different one is the one that is circulated, isn't it the one that is circulated that they will say is a valid one?
Well, the signed one.
This one that is already circulating.
Well, two of them circulated. So two of them circulated, but the CTC is the one that actually has the judge's signature on it. So which makes it, so to say, authentic.
Okay, because we see some persons including.
Yes.
All right, let's get to Lagos. Our colleagues have got some questions for you as well.
Yes, Mrs. Eze, good morning. Good to have you on the program. I just want us to take a second look at some of the letters, purported letter of withdrawal in circulation. You have denied it, but there's a second one. I wonder if it can be played on the screen again. It carries your name, Princess Anne Nwanyibife Agom Eze. Your address, number 3 Pontius Ibogu Street, Abakaliki, Ebonyi State, and your telephone number. Please confirm that these details are yours. And afterwards, I'd like you to speak to the allegations of perjury and anti-party activities leveled against you for which you were suspended. So are these details yours?
Well, the documents you are presented, I mean, we are Ebonyans. Everybody knows me. Like I said, I am a retired permanent secretary. So everybody has my details. So if you look at my form is cancelled at the back of it because I didn't swear not to it, you know. So if I knew this was, I would have come with my certified copy when I submitted it. So what is showing is not me. It's not me.
This is not your address?
That's my address. I said I'm known by everyone.
What about...
So getting my address and getting my phone number is not an issue.
What about the allegations of anti-party activity and perjury?
Well, I don't know what they talk about, what they're talking about perjury. It is not their duty to talk about perjury. Everything, whatever thing they have, we are in court. We are in court. They are not lawyers, they are not policemen to talk about perjury. And then what constitutes perjury?
Well, Madam, I read a report ascribed to one of the members of your party who is reported to be a factional chairman of, APC in Ebonyi State. And he was saying that, there are, well, he was called a factional chairman in that report. He was saying that, look, there are two major factions in the APC, and that is the root of all of this problem. That there was a faction, the original faction, under, well, as old as under, Dr. Obunaya Onu. And then there is a new one that came with the governor of Ebonyi State, Engineer Dave Umahi, and that the new bloc and the old bloc are the reasons. In fact, he said it was when the new bloc came that all of this unsettlement started in the party, and which has led to this and a number of other issues like that. Is that something you can confirm?
To a great extent, since the governor came to move to APC in November 2020, he came in with his commissioners, he came in with the local government chairman, and these are the people he has been working with all this period. He never took cognizance of the fact that they were old members in the party. Even if you look at the constitution of the people going for one position or the other, they are all APC, the new APC, people he came in with. So the issue of not carrying the old members along has been a big problem. Part of what I'm suffering also is the fact that I have been in APC. So once you've been an old APC, the government doesn't have anything to do with you. The only person they brought in on arrival was our party chairman. That was the only person. So it's been constituting a lot of problems, and as it is now, I seem to be the only one with the Chief Elias Mbam of the old APC that is vying for something at the moment. And so, because we are not being accommodated, it's causing a lot of friction.
Chamberlain.
Yeah.
I don't know if I was done. That's why
I was wondering
was
too.
a little silent. But let me ask you, ma'am, because this matter is still in court.
Yep.
Your party, there are claims that your party says it has expelled you. You say it runs to, it's quite the contrary. You say that there has been pressure on your ward, which is where an expulsion actually happens, and members in your ward have strongly refused. But that doesn't remove the sentiment that perhaps the generality of the party might feel in your state. You're up against a very big opponent. The current governor of your state is no small fry.
No, he's not.
So I'm wondering, if eventually this sails through and it is in your favor in the courts, how do you hope to be able to buy the support of the rest of the members of your party to be able to actualize your ambition? Because you're going to need their support, aren't you?
Definitely. My ward chairman issued a press release saying that I am not suspended. And when that happened, it threw the government into confusion. So the next thing they did was to reconvene the other executive from the ward, who now came, and at that moment, they said, oh, the ward chairman is hereby suspended also. This is an elected person. You don't just suspend people by word of mouth. But the man has, because there is no suspension that happens in that manner. As far as I'm concerned, my ward chairman has put up a press release that I'm not suspended. However, this is party matter. After the rains, everything will calm down. The election will be done peacefully. So if by the time I'm given the mandate, the party will definitely support me.
You're very confident that you get the mandate.
Oh, yeah, I am. Because I'm the authentic candidate.
Yeah. Where is the national leadership of the party in all of this? Have they reached out? Any communication from them about the matter?
No. From the grapevine, they are saying the case is in court until the determination, because they were duly served.
Have there been any submission of names? Because I also know that there's a portal which INEC empowers the national chairman of parties to be able to fill. Have they put any names for Ebonyi South
As
Senatorial
of yesterday,
District?
none. I don't know about today. As of yesterday, none, because I equally hear that INEC is equally waiting for the outcome of the judgments from the appeal court.
So what about before it got to this court stage? Did the national leadership of the party reach out at any time?
No.
Wow.
So you...
Well, it's like, You know, it's the governor that went to court.
Then you applied?
I just applied to join, yes. So everything kind of worked so speedily, and I want to believe he didn't give the party opportunity to come into it, because just within a week, you know, the judgment was given, and then everybody's staying back to watch what the court has to offer.
All right, we'll look forward and hope that all of this is resolved, and then everybody moves on. But we have to thank you.
Let me also say something. I want to thank Nigerians. I want to thank the women. They've been so supportive. And, you know, there's been this thing circulating about me saying, oh, arrest her wherever you see her. How can the governor say that? The governor is supposed to protect his citizens. The governor swore an oath to keep us safe. Why would he say I should be arrested?
Is there a video of him saying that?
Oh, it's all over the newspapers. You know, whoever they said is his agent. So whatever they say is attributed to him. And then, because they say I should be arrested, I say it wherever I go to, that I have it also in authority. I know somebody asked me, how do you prove it? I said, the only way to prove is if I'm dead. That's the only way people will believe what I'm saying. And I don't want to die. I want to be alive as a woman, to be the senatorial candidate, to be able to represent my people like never before, and that if anything happens to me, my family, my children, my governor, Dave Omahi, and the party chairman, who has decided not to be an unbiased umpire, should be held responsible.
So with these fears now, do you feel safe enough to be able to go back to Ebonyi?
I will when the judgment is given, because everybody will fall in line. And the women, 276 women, they have come up to condemn the harassment, all the issues concerning, they've been throwing stones. They are not saying whether Anne is right or not, but they are saying you don't talk about her in that manner. You don't push her out. You don't make her run inside, because it's as good as telling me you don't come out. It's intimidation. And I refuse to be intimidated.
But I'm sure you understand why those persons who are asking you to prove it, because if they cannot independently verify...
So you want me there, Chamberlain?
No, the thing is, if they cannot independently verify that that was actually said, by
it was
who
said.
You say said it, you understand why they can't...
Let me tell you, arresting me, let me tell you, the whole decoy is all about people try to arrest me, and if I resist, they will shoot me. They say, shoot aside. Shoot aside, Princess Anna Gomeze and the ward chairman. And that's why the man is on the run.
Well, we hope it never gets to that.
Yes.
And we certainly wish you all the best as you contest in this polls.
Right. Yes, I will.
And we'll look to it. Is there any date for the judgment yet?
Well, the case is coming up on the 7th.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
All right. We do thank you for coming on.
I'll be back.
All the best.
When I win.
Okay. All right. There you go. We do have some emails, some messages coming through. Henry Okeke, this is from you about the credible, fair elections. Starting from party primary elections, we can deploy technology extensively to curtail electoral malpractices. We have no need creating an election offences commission if the offences are preventable through technology and adequate enforcement of the existing electoral laws and regulation. The police can as well create and train a special unit for diligent investigation and prosecution of electoral malpractices, Henry Okeke says.
And another Henry, but this is Henry Ewunonu, he says, since elections are seasonal, what will the Commission's tribunal courts be doing in off-season periods? How are the other specialized courts achieving their mandates as compared with the regular courts? How are electoral offenses handled in countries that Nigeria can model after? Nigeria's problems are not with creating new institutions. It lies with ensuring that they work. That's from Henry Ewunonu.
And from Festus Akimboyewa, we hear that security and prosperity are correlated with each other. Our country is simply not prospering because of insecurity. Whoever will be our president in 2023 must take the front seat in tackling our security challenges. May God bless and prosper Nigeria. Amen to that.
And essentially saying, hey, you who will employ the next set of leaders, it's completely up to you. In the meantime, have a wonderful rest of your day. I'm Ayo Makinde.
Thank you for watching. I am Bukola Samuel Wemimo.
And from Abuja, thank you. I'm Maupe Ogun Yusuf.
I am Chamberlain, so goodbye.